Right. So there is a practice called sewage pharmacology, back from the old days where the people who lived out in the countryside would practice some wild and crazy ideas. Some may have worked. Some may have worked negligibly. Some may not have worked at all. And sewage pharmacology is something I find kind of interesting. I want to talk about. I got about 3 pages that I copied from a book. Took a picture of a book, so I'm going to read this. Whenever I was interviewing someone and heard the phrase "I hate to tell you this" or "You're not going to believe this," I could almost be certain what was to follow. I was about to be told yet another tale of a cow manure poultice, or of the medicine use of human urine. Other types of bodily waste and secretions were also used, but much less often. People have used sewage pharmacology throughout recorded history. It is still used in some parts of the world. The ancient Egyptians were more discriminating than our immediate ancestors. They used more than 2 dozen types of dung for healing purposes. Galen recommended using dove's dung. He devoted a treatise chapter to the substance. In the 1600s, Christian Franz Paulini, a well-respected doctor, believed that with the aid of feces and urine, it is possible to cure from head to foot, internally and externally, all disease, no matter how severe or poisonous it may seem to be. Several seniors had accounts for me of how various waste products were used in the past. All right, and this is somebody's account. Dad used to say that cow dung was like penicillin. When I was 7 or 8, I was running fast through the kitchen. I ran into the wood stove, and the oven door fell upon and burnt my hand. It pulled away the skin. I can still smell it. The awful smell of burning flesh. Fresh cow manure took out the burning sensation. Here's another one. We had a large family. When diphtheria struck, Father made us horse bun tea. He steeped it on the stove. The one that took it lived. The ones that didn't died. My brother twisted his foot and he couldn't go to school. We had an old aunt that lived with us, and she went out and got a big burdock leaf and piled fresh cow manure on it. She wrapped it around the ankle and tied it on with a rag. In no time, my brother was back in school. I don't know if it was because he couldn't stand the smell or if it really worked. Mother rubbed chicken manure over my body when I couldn't break out with chicken pox. I was real sick, and I can remember lying in bed and holding my nose. When we'd get poison ivy on our feet, Ma would have us walk barefoot through cow flops. I used to like the feel of it oozing between my toes. I once had an excruciating toothache that I treated externally with a cow manure poultice. I certainly didn't enjoy doing it, but it was better than enduring the pain. In World War I, the outfit that my father-in-law was with had no gas masks. They would urinate in a hanky and put it over the face. It would keep gas away from the throat and eyes. Okay, the following story was told by a delightful old gentleman in St. Albans, Vermont. He spoke with such excitement and enthusiasm that he kept bouncing up and down in his chair. We used to live in Williston, Vermont, in an 18-room house built in 1855, the biggest house in town. A couple from Burlington used to come up and visit my folks every so often and stay a few nights. The woman was very classy lady, a real beauty from a wealthy family. I liked her a lot, and I used to cling to her. She had eczema so bad that her hands would crack right open and she would cry. The doctors didn't seem to have anything that would cure it. An old Indian we used to call Tom Tom worked for my folks as a farmhand. He said he knew what would cure it. That night he took her to the barn and didn't tell her what he was going to do. They waited a while. Then when the cow started to take a dump, he grabbed her hands and put them right under it. I watched the whole thing. She kept trying to pull her hands back. I laughed like hell, and so did her husband. The Indian bandaged her hands with the manure right in there. You know, that actually started to heal the eczema. She noticed the difference right away. Do you realize she came up to the barn every night to do that? You should have seen the look on her face when the cow would do that to her. Don't suppose she'd ever been pooped on before. Some seniors cited that heat that manure produced as a healing factor, and indeed decaying cow manure generates and holds heat so well that you can dig into a pile of it at first thaw and see steam rising. And horse manure is said to be twice as hot as cow manure. I have recorded the use of cow manure poultices many times in this book. The reader should keep in mind that the treatment was so ghastly that people were not likely to forget it. Okay, that's all I have for reading. It's incredible. I could never bring myself to do what these people have done for the various problems using this. I mean, I don't even really have access to all this poop anyway. Honestly, it's an accessible thing. If you got access to a lot of spider webs, you might use those a lot to clean out wounds. If you have a lot of access to those things, you got minimal access to the things that are not poop, and more access to poop. People try things that they have most access to, uh, um, and experiment with things they have most access to. So this is a time when there's more farmers on the land, when more people have now gravitated to cities, so you got less farming issues. So people today might be turning to like engine oil for curing various problems, or other extracts that are a little more risky. Cow poop may not be as risky as as a solvent that you could just purchase at a store. So it's really interesting how medicine has changed over time based upon our access to particular materials.